Have you ever pondered upon where the boundary of space truly lies? Is it closer than we think, or perhaps farther than we imagine? This question has been at the heart of many debates and discussions in the world of space exploration. The vast expanse of the cosmos has always been considered the final frontier, an uncharted territory filled with mysteries and wonders. But where does this frontier actually begin? The answer is not as straightforward as one might assume. You see, the definition of where our planet's atmosphere ends and space begins varies depending on who you ask. There are two widely recognized thresholds, each with its own rationale and history. One is the Kármán line, defined by the Fédération Aeronautique Internationale, the world's governing body for aeronautics records. The other is a boundary set by the United States Air Force. To find answers to these fascinating questions, we delve into the interpretations of two prominent authorities, the Fédération Aeronautique Internationale and the United States Air Force. According to the Fédération Aeronautique Internationale, the threshold of outer space is clearly defined. It lies exactly 100 kilometers or roughly 62 miles above sea level. This boundary is known as the Kármán line, named after the Hungarian-American physicist Theodor von Kármán, who first calculated that around this altitude, the atmosphere becomes too thin to support aerodynamic flight. Imagine for a moment that you're in a vehicle, soaring higher and higher into the sky. As you ascend, the air around you thins out, gradually losing its ability to provide the lift your vehicle needs to maintain its altitude. Eventually, you reach an altitude where the air is so thin that it can't support your vehicle anymore. That's the Kármán line. But it's not just about flight mechanics. The Kármán line also has legal implications. According to the Fédération Aeronautique Internationale, once you cross this line, you've technically entered outer space. You're no longer bound by the laws of the airspace and have stepped into a realm governed by space law. So, in a way, the Kármán line serves as a gatekeeper, marking the boundary between our world and the vast expanse of space. It's a thin, invisible line that separates the sky from the stars, the known from the unknown, the earthly from the cosmic. Thus, in the eyes of the Fédération Aeronautique Internationale, crossing the Kármán line is akin to setting foot in space. However, the United States Air Force sees the boundary of space in a different light. For them, the frontier of space begins at a lower altitude, just 50 miles above sea level. That's a whole 12 miles sooner than the Kármán line, the internationally recognized boundary of space. This discrepancy might seem small, but it has sparked a long-standing debate. Why the difference, you may ask? The United States Air Force argues that at 50 miles up, the atmosphere is already so thin that conventional aircraft can't sustain flight. For them, this is the threshold a pilot must cross to earn the coveted title of an astronaut. This distinction came to a head during the 1960s with the experimental X-15 flights. 8 American pilots, including 3 civilians, flew this rocket-powered plane above the 50-mile mark. While some of these flights did cross the Kármán line, others fell short, never reaching the 100-kilometer boundary. By the American military's definition, all these pilots were astronauts, but by international standards, some had never truly been to space. This put NASA in an awkward position, and for nearly 40 years, they wavered on whether to recognize these X-15 pilots as official astronauts. It wasn't until 2005 that they finally awarded the 3 civilian pilots their astronaut wings. For the United States Air Force, the journey to become an astronaut begins 12 miles earlier than the Kármán line. This disparity in definitions has sparked a debate and even caused some strife. One vivid example is the case of the 8 American test pilots who flew the experimental X-15 rocket-powered plane in the 60s. While all of them soared above the 50-mile mark, not all crossed the Kármán line. According to the American military, they were all astronauts. However, by international standards, the ones who didn't cross the Kármán line were merely high-flying pilots. This put NASA in an awkward position. For almost 4 decades, the agency wavered on whether to recognize these pilots as official astronauts. But finally, in 2005, they awarded the 3 civilian pilots their astronaut wings. So the definition of where space begins seems to be a matter of perspective. In the end, the definition of space might depend on who you ask. Yet whether it starts 62 miles above sea level or 12 miles sooner, the allure of space remains the final frontier for